Welcome to my channel. Listen to my stories every day. Comment, like and subscribe to my channel. Enjoy listening.
It started innocuously enough, a flicker of doubt as I scrolled through the comments under the latest photo of my wife, Andrea, on social media. The picture itself was benign, Andrea smiling at a company barbecue, the sun setting picturesquely in the background. But amidst the usual chorus of likes and casual compliments, one man's comments stood out. His words weren't overtly inappropriate, but the familiarity tinged with intimacy was unmistakable. "Stunning as always, Andrea. That smile could light up any gloomy day," read one. "Missed you at the last meetup. Hope to catch you next time," said another. Who was this guy? Curiosity pricked at me, a slow and irritating itch. I tried to dismiss it as nothing. Andrea was attractive and likable, it wasn't unusual for her to garner attention. But the niggle of doubt wouldn't leave. I found myself revisiting the profile of this man, Derek, over and over again. His page was a well-curated mix of personal achievements and snapshots of exotic locations. No obvious connections to Andrea, yet the ease of his words to her suggested a closeness I wasn't aware of. One evening, as Andrea hummed softly to herself in the shower, her phone buzzed on the nightstand. Normally, I respected her privacy, but that itch of doubt compelled me to glance at the screen. It was a message from Derek: "Can't wait for our next little adventure. Been too long." I felt a tight clench in my gut. What adventure? They worked in different sectors, there were no professional overlaps. The message was a shard of ice down my spine. I needed answers, but confronting Andrea directly could lead her to cover her tracks if there was indeed something to hide. 2 days later, I found the perfect opportunity. Andrea was bustling around the kitchen, preparing for a work trip, her phone abandoned on the couch. My heart thudded against my ribs as I picked it up and navigated to her messages. There was a whole thread with Derek, full of winky faces and rendezvous plans masked under the guise of casual meetups. I took a deep breath and texted Derek from her phone. "Hey, looking forward to seeing you again. When's our next meeting?" The response was almost instantaneous, and it was like a punch to the stomach. "Hey, D. What are you texting me from this profile for? Did you break up with your husband? Or are you no longer worried that he might expose us? What's up, my paranoid ass?" The words on the screen blurred as a red haze descended over my vision. Paranoid? The irony of it cut deep. Derek thought it was Andrea texting, and his casual dismissal of my existence, the insinuation of her paranoia about being caught, it fueled a fury in me that burned hot and bright. Andrea was paranoid for a reason, and Derek, her lover, had clearly underestimated the situation. As I stood there, clutching the phone, the seeds of revenge began to take root in my mind. They thought they could make a fool of me. I would show them exactly what happens when you underestimate someone scorned. My plan began to form, starting with exposing their deceit in a way they never saw coming. I couldn't sleep that night. Every time I closed my eyes, Derek's message replayed in my mind, taunting me. I lay in bed, listening to Andrea's steady breathing beside me, my anger boiling beneath the surface. She had no idea what was coming. The next morning, I put on a facade of normalcy, kissing Andrea goodbye as she left for her trip. "Be safe," I murmured, watching her drive away. The moment she was out of sight, I sprang into action. I reached out to my old college buddy, Jack. We hadn't spoken in years, but he had always been resourceful, a guy who could get things done. "Jack, I need a favor," I said when he answered my call. "Evan. Long time, man. What's up?" His voice was cautious, sensing the urgency in my tone. I explained the situation briefly, emphasizing the need for discretion. "I need to find out everything about this guy, Derek. Can you help?" Jack didn't hesitate. "I've got some contacts who can dig into his background. Give me a few days." Days? I didn't have that kind of patience. But I agreed, knowing Jack would do his best to expedite the process. While waiting for Jack's intel, I focused on gathering evidence. I went through Andrea's messages meticulously, taking screenshots and forwarding them to a burner phone. I compiled every damning piece of evidence into a folder labeled Truth. That evening, I decided to test Derek's loyalty further. I borrowed Andrea's cell phone again and texted Derek from her profile. "Hey, babe. Missing you already. Let's meet sooner. Can you do tomorrow?" His response was immediate. "Absolutely. Can't wait to see you. Usual spot." I felt a surge of satisfaction. Derek was willing to meet up without hesitation. I decided to push my luck. Actually, I was thinking somewhere different. How about the cafe on Main Street? 7 p.m. There was a pause, then, "Sure thing. I'll be there." Perfect. Now, I needed to make sure I wasn't alone. I called Sarah, a close friend who had always been loyal and supportive. She was the only person I trusted with this. "Sarah, I need your help. Can you meet me at the cafe on Main Street tomorrow at 7 p.m.? I asked, trying to keep my voice steady. "Evan, what's going on? You sound serious," she replied, concern evident in her tone. "I'll explain everything tomorrow. Just trust me on this." Sarah agreed, though reluctantly. With my plan set in motion, all I had to do was wait. The next evening, I arrived at the cafe early, sitting in a corner where I had a clear view of the entrance. Sarah joined me shortly after, her face a mask of worry. "Evan, what's this about?" she asked, sliding into the seat across from me. I handed her my phone, showing her the screenshots. "Andrea's cheating on me. This guy, Derek, he's meeting her here tonight. But he thinks he's meeting Andrea." Sarah's eyes widened as she scrolled through the messages. "Oh my God, Evan. I'm so sorry. I need you to back me up when he gets here. I want to confront him and get the truth out in the open." She nodded, her expression hardening. "I'm with you." At exactly 7 p.m., Derek walked in. He was tall, confident, and utterly oblivious to the trap he had walked into. I watched as he scanned the room, looking for Andrea. I stood up and approached him. "Derek?" He turned, surprise flickering in his eyes. "Evan. What are you doing here?" I smiled, but it didn't reach my eyes. "I could ask you the same thing. Waiting for someone?" Derek's face paled. Save it," I snapped. "We both know why you're here. Andrea isn't coming. It's just you, me, and the truth." He glanced around, realizing he was cornered. "Look, man, I can explain." "No explanations," I cut him off. "I have all the proof I need. Now, you're going to tell me everything, or I'll make sure your life is a living hell." Derek's composure cracked. Okay. Yes, I've been seeing Andrea. But it's not what you think. She told me you two were having problems, that you were practically separated." "Bullshit." I slammed my fist on the table, drawing stares from nearby patrons. "You knew exactly what you were doing. And now, you're going to face the consequences." Sarah stepped forward, her voice steady. "You need to leave, Derek. Now. Before things get worse." Derek looked between us, then nodded, his bravado deflating. "Fine. I'm going. But this isn't over." He turned and left, and I let out a breath I hadn't realized I was holding. Sarah put a hand on my shoulder. "What now?" "Now," I said, my voice cold and determined, "we start phase 2. I'm going to destroy their lives, just like they tried to destroy mine. The seeds of my revenge were planted, and I would nurture them until Andrea and Derek reaped what they had sown." The days following my confrontation with Derek were a whirlwind of preparation. I spent hours poring over the evidence, crafting a plan that would leave no room for Andrea or Derek to wriggle out of their lies. Jack had come through with a thorough background check on Derek, revealing more than a few skeletons in his closet. I now had everything I needed to begin dismantling their lives. Andrea returned from her trip, none the wiser. She seemed cheerful, even affectionate, which only fueled my determination. I played the part of the doting husband, biding my time until the moment was right. That moment came sooner than expected. Andrea had a company event one evening, giving me the perfect opportunity to set my plan in motion. She left the house looking stunning, and I couldn't help but feel a pang of sadness mixed with my anger. But there was no turning back now. Once she was gone, I called Jack. "It's time," I said simply. Jack's voice was calm and reassuring. "I've got the setup ready. Just give me the word." "Do it," I replied, ending the call. Jack had arranged for a series of anonymous emails to be sent to Andrea's company, exposing her affair with Derek. The emails included the screenshots and messages I had collected, enough to create a scandal. But that was just the beginning. I also sent a copy of the emails to Derek's employer, ensuring that his workplace would be aware of his indiscretions. The goal was to hit them where it hurt the most, their careers and reputations. As I waited for the fallout, I focused on maintaining my cover. Andrea returned from her event, and we went through the motions of our evening routine. It was eerie, living this double life, but the anticipation of seeing their downfall kept me going. The next morning, the storm began. Andrea received a call from her boss, her face going pale as she listened. "What? That's impossible. There must be some mistake," she stammered, her eyes wide with fear. She hung up and turned to me, her hands shaking. "Evan, someone's spreading lies about me at work. They're saying I'm having an affair." I feigned shock, stepping forward to comfort her. "Who would do something like that? Do you have any idea who it could be?" "I don't know," she whispered, tears forming in her eyes. "They have messages and screenshots." I held her, hiding the satisfaction bubbling up inside me. "We'll get through this," I said softly. "We'll find out who did this and clear your name." Meanwhile, Derek was facing his own reckoning. Jack kept me updated, and the news was good. Derek's employer had taken the accusations seriously, launching an investigation that put his job on the line. I couldn't help but smile at the thought of him squirming under the scrutiny. The next phase of my plan involved a more personal touch. I needed to confront Andrea directly, to see her reaction when the truth came out. I waited until she had calmed down from the initial shock, then suggested we go out for dinner. She agreed, eager for a distraction. We went to our favorite restaurant, a cozy little place downtown. As we sat down, I could see the tension in her eyes, the fear of what was to come. I decided to press her gently, to see if she would confess. "Have you thought about who might have done this?" I asked, taking a sip of my drink. Andrea shook her head, staring down at her plate. "I don't know. It's like someone is out to destroy me." "Do you have any enemies at work? Anyone who might hold a grudge?" She looked up, her eyes searching mine. "No, I can't think of anyone." "Evan, do you believe these accusations?" I met her gaze, letting a hint of doubt creep into my voice. "It's hard to believe, but the evidence, it's damning, Andrea. If there's anything you need to tell me, now's the time." Her face crumpled, and she reached across the table to grab my hand. "Evan, I swear I've been faithful. I would never do anything to hurt you." I felt a surge of anger but kept my expression neutral. "I want to believe you. But if there's any truth to these rumors, it's better I hear it from you than anyone else." Tears spilled down her cheeks, and she shook her head vehemently. "There's nothing, Evan. I love you." The words were like acid, burning through my resolve. I pulled my hand away, unable to keep up the act any longer. I hope you're telling the truth, I said coldly. Because if I find out you're lying, there will be consequences. Andrea looked stunned, her tears drying up as fear took hold. Evan, please. I stood up, throwing some cash on the table. Let's go home, I said, my voice flat. We'll talk more there. The drive home was silent, tension thick in the air. Once inside, I turned to her, my expression hard. Give me your phone. What? Why? She asked, her voice trembling. I need to see it. Now. Reluctantly, she handed it over, and I scrolled through her messages, finding nothing new. But I knew she was good at covering her tracks. Where are the messages from Derek? I demanded. Her face went white, and she stepped back. I don't know what you're talking about. Don't lie to me, Andrea. I know everything. She broke down then, sobbing uncontrollably. Evan, I'm so sorry. I never meant for this to happen. I felt a twisted sense of satisfaction as I watched her crumble. You betrayed me, I said quietly. And now, you'll pay the price. Andrea fell to her knees, begging for forgiveness. But there was no going back. The first strike had been delivered, and the war had only just begun. The days following Andrea's breakdown were a blur of tension and silence. She tried to mend things between us, showering me with affection and apologies, but I remained distant. Each day brought us closer to the final act of my plan. The climax of our story, where I would bring everything crashing down around her and Derek. I spent hours meticulously preparing for the final confrontation. I needed to ensure that there would be no escape for either of them. Jack's resources were invaluable. He provided me with tools to dig deeper into Andrea's and Derek's lives. The more I discovered, the more resolute I became in my mission. One evening, while Andrea was out for a supposed work meeting, I made my move. I called Sarah and Jack to my house, laying out the final pieces of the plan. Tonight is the night, I said, my voice cold and determined. We're going to expose them for the liars they are. Jack nodded, his expression serious. Everything set. We've got enough evidence to ruin Derek's career and Andrea's reputation. Are you sure you want to do this? Absolutely, I replied without hesitation. They need to face the consequences. Sarah looked worried but supportive. Just be careful, Evan. This could get messy. I know, I said, my resolve unwavering. Let's do this. Andrea came home late that night, her eyes red from what she claimed was a stressful meeting. I played my part, acting concerned and supportive. I'm here for you, I said, masking my true intentions. The next morning, I set the final phase into motion. I had sent anonymous tips to both Andrea's and Derek's workplaces, ensuring that the scandal would erupt simultaneously. By noon, the chaos had begun. Andrea's phone rang incessantly as frantic calls and messages flooded in. Evan, something's happening at work, she said, her voice shaking. What do you mean? I asked, feigning ignorance. Someone's leaked everything. The affair, the messages, everything. They're talking about firing me, she cried, her face a mask of terror. My phone buzzed with a message from Jack. It's done. Derek's being questioned. He's screwed. Good, I texted back, my heart pounding with anticipation. I turned to Andrea, my expression stern. We need to talk. She looked at me, her eyes wide with fear. Evan, please. No more lies, I said, my voice hard. You've been cheating on me with Derek. I know everything. Her face crumpled, and she fell to her knees. Evan, I'm so sorry. I never meant to hurt you. Please, forgive me. Forgiveness? I laughed bitterly. You think it's that easy? You destroyed our marriage, Andrea. I'll do anything, she pleaded. Just give me a chance to make it right. I shook my head. There's nothing left to save. The doorbell rang, interrupting our confrontation. I opened it to find Jack and Sarah standing there, their expressions grim. It's time, I said, letting them in. Andrea looked up, confusion mingled with fear in her eyes. What's going on? We're going to end this, I replied, my voice cold. Jack has the evidence. We're going to expose everything. Jack pulled out his laptop and set it on the table, showing the incriminating messages and photos. This is all going to the press. By tomorrow, everyone will know what you and Derek have done. Andrea sobbed, her body shaking. Please, Evan. Don't do this. It's too late for please, I said, my voice devoid of emotion. You made your bed, now lie in it. As Jack began to upload the files, a sudden realization hit me. The depth of my actions, the lengths I'd gone to ruin Andrea and Derek, it was consuming me. Was this truly who I wanted to be? Was this revenge worth losing myself in the process? I held up a hand, stopping Jack. Wait. Everyone turned to look at me, confusion etched on their faces. Evan? Sarah asked, her voice gentle. I took a deep breath, feeling the weight of my decisions pressing down on me. Maybe there's another way. What do you mean? Jack asked, frowning. Revenge won't fix what's broken, I said, my voice trembling. It won't make the pain go away. Andrea looked at me, hope flickering in her eyes. Evan. I sighed, feeling the anger and hurt begin to ebb away. I don't want to be this person. I don't want to destroy lives, even if they deserve it. Jack and Sarah exchanged glances, uncertain. Are you sure about this? Jack asked. I nodded. Yes. I need to find a way to move on, to heal. Destroying them won't change what happened. Andrea sobbed with relief, crawling towards me. Thank you, Evan. I promise I'll make this right. I stepped back, holding up a hand. Don't thank me. We're over, Andrea. You need to face the consequences of your actions. But I won't be the one to ruin you. Jack sighed, closing his laptop. All right. It's your call. Sarah hugged me, her voice soft. You're a good man, Evan. Don't forget that. As Andrea continued to cry, I walked away, feeling a strange sense of peace. The road ahead would be difficult, filled with pain and healing. But I knew now that revenge wasn't the answer. It was time to rebuild my life, free from the shadows of betrayal. And so, the chapter closed on Andrea and Derek's deceit. But a new chapter began for me, one where I would find strength in forgiveness and hope in new beginnings. The intrigue and pain of the past would remain, but they no longer defined my future.